I moved to America from France in 2006 because my mom got a job in Atlanta.
So I was born in China and I left when I was about 8 months old because I was adopted. Yeah.
I lived in Scottsdale, DC, Madrid, Kenya, Nairobi, Geneva, and Seattle.
And I lived in Paris from the age of 7 to 9.
I moved to the US around 2000, so that's probably about 15 years ago now.
Did I assimilate? I mean, my mom is American, so I didn't have too much of like a big difference. I knew I'd grown up around French and American family members, so I'd kind of been exposed to that part of the world and I guess that culture. And so it wasn't too hard to assimilate. I'm also not very shy, so it wasn't too hard.
When I first got there, I think school was the only reason that I was able to assimilate at all. In the first few weeks, I was totally homesick, crying over my friends, and I mean, I was curious, but I didn't have any grounding. But the first day of school was when I met basically the friends that I would have for the next 2 years.
I don't know if I've fully assimilated, or if I actually want to fully assimilate. And I think the difference has to do with the fact that I moved here much later in my life than most people would who immigrate younger, or they come with their families.
I think you just have to take it at face value, you know, be excited about the possibilities and just start with a clean slate.
Being exposed to a new culture, I mean, even if they're both very similar, they're still different. So I had to get used to that. There are different norms that we don't have in France.
Because my older sister and I were adopted and my parents wanted us to retain part of our Chinese heritage, it made our house much more biracial. So I mean, you could find chopsticks everywhere. We celebrate Chinese New Year.
After I moved, so I came and I brought with me my own culture, my own sense of, I guess, my own sense of home, which differed from the sense of home that most people would share here. That being said, being in a what they call a mixed marriage, so my wife came from Seattle, from the States, and I'm from Morocco. Our culture, our home, was more of a bicultural space than a monocultural space.
So in some ways, Paris has always occupied an interesting place in my heart because I lived there for a bit and I speak the language now, but in other ways, I've also grown away from it in the sense that I'm not a Parisian teenager.
I think challenges are a bit complicated because of where I come from. I come from an Arab country, I come from a Muslim country, and I identify as such. And as you're aware, being an Arab American in the United States of America has not been an easy thing. Starting with my name. My name tells my history before I even introduce myself. If I say my name is Fakhruddin, people sort of say, oh, like yesterday, I had a doctor's appointment and I went to this office for the first time, and the woman she refused to say my first name, even as I was trying to say, come on, you can say it, I'm sure you can say it. No, I don't want to say it. And she got very uncomfortable, which made me very uncomfortable.
But I know that for my little sister, when she came to the U.S., she was 8 when we adopted her. It was very overwhelming, big language difference. I mean, this one 8-year-old kid goes into a country where she can't speak the language. Completely different culture. And that, I can only imagine how difficult and how stimulating that would be.
Sometimes the food's kind of weird. and you can't get like fast food.
And just, I mean, kind of like changing a school, you have to get used to the people, to the classes. It's kind of the same thing, you have to get used to the place and again to the people.
I would definitely say that I identify more with American culture and everything. I mean, I was never really that fond of kind of getting to know more about Chinese culture and heritage. Like, my parents had me in Chinese classes, and I really didn't like them.
And I don't know if there's one that's more home to me. They're both very different, so it's hard to compare. I absolutely love both, and I don't think I would pick one over the other. It's just too hard to do.
So I would say I feel more at home in Morocco, culturally, but when I'm in Morocco, I feel like a fish out of water because I'm not with my family here.
Being such a short period of time, it really did kind of shape my direction. I think when I got back, the main thing was that I always had a part of me that was rooted somewhere else. And to this day, I like to cultivate the ability to be in many different parts of the world, just mentally, you know what I mean? Just to have somewhere else, to know that there's another place in this world where people are doing things, where people are living their lives, and that you can kind of, it gives you a certain comfort to be able to kind of switch between those modes.
A home has a lot to do with how you identify or who you identify with emotionally. The cultural identity then has to do with, my home is where the people I like live. It's more complicated than that. I'm sure you're aware of that.
I feel like I'm everywhere. I'm a student of the world.